Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1998 Represent. On this episode, we're taking a look at the Globe Sessions by Sheryl Crow. I actually have this album here on CD. I've had it for a little while. I didn't buy it initially when it first came out, but I picked this up, I want to say, probably a few years ago. Just saw it at like a thrift store. I had heard the album a couple times before that. I didn't really listen to it in 1998. I think I listened to a few of the singles that were off this album that were on like the radio or something like that. But overall, it's a really good album. I don't know where I really rate it in her discography. It might be my favorite one. I'm more familiar with her like kind of her earlier stuff, so like Tuesday Night Music Club, and then a few years later she did Sheryl Crow, which is her second album was self-titled, and then the Globe Sessions. I think the Globe Sessions, out of what I've heard, is probably my favorite album from her. It's basically like kind of like a little bit of rock, a little bit of country. There's some pretty good songs on here. Probably the most known songs off of here are My Favorite Mistake, There Goes the Neighborhood, and Anything But Down. I think those were like the three singles off this album that were more well known than the rest of the album. There's a few different versions of this album as well, or a couple different versions that have some extra tracks. We'll be talking about those in just a moment. I'm going to go to my notes here about this album. Let me pull up the page for it. Let's see where we're at. All right, here we are. So this is Sheryl Crow's The Globe Sessions, first released September 21st, 1998. Like I mentioned, this is her third studio album following Tuesday Night Music Club, and then following, I think that was like 1992 or 1993. I think Sheryl Crow is 1996, and then this is 1998. This was nominated for several Grammys and ended up winning, I believe, winning two Grammys. Grammys for Best Rock Album and then Best Engineered Non-Classical Album. It won those Grammys. Let me see. Unfortunately, the master recordings for this record, I think this happened in 2008, but I think it was only in 2019 when they actually announced this. There was a fire at the Universal Studios in Hollywood. I think it was like, and that's where Universal had a lot of, the Universal Music Group had a lot of master recordings there. Not just for Sheryl Crow, but for like, they ended up losing hundreds of albums worth of recordings in some fires that broke out in 2008. And it was announced in 2019 that that's like a lot of those were master recordings for this particular album, and then hundreds of more, which probably means this album probably won't get like a remastering. I suppose they could still continue just printing CDs because like I guess if they just have a copy of the CD, they can probably just like duplicate that over and over and over again. But it probably means there's going to be no like not remixes, but like remastering of the album or anything like that with those tapes being gone. I guess the closest thing they would be able to do would be to potentially re-record the album. I don't know if this even got a vinyl release, because I remember going to a record store. I want to say I first started collecting vinyl in 2011, and in 2012 I went into a record store looking for some garbage vinyl from the early to mid 90s, I guess. And the guy there was saying, well, like a lot of bands weren't really pressing vinyl back then, at least at least in North America. I think I have some garbage stuff that's actually from like a European record label or a branch of like it like that. So I don't know if this album ever got a vinyl release, because he was saying that kind of like a lot of stuff that was on vinyl is what people were playing in like clubs. So like people scratching on it, or like dance mixes and like hip hop and rap. Those are those are still being made on vinyl in the 90s, but a lot of like contemporary kind of like rock wasn't, unless like I said it was from like a foreign branch of a record company. So that means probably if they were to remaster it, they wouldn't be able to do a vinyl of it without having those master tapes. Let's see, there's different versions of the album. So like there's going to be some versions that have a couple bonus tracks. I think one is a cover of Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. There's one called, I think it's called Subway Ride or Subway Ride. I think one of the tracks, the last track on here is Crash and Burn. I think that one, this version has like it's like 11 minutes long, because there's a Crash and Burn plays, then there's a gap, and then there's another track after that. Some other Grammys this thing is nominated for. So it was nominated for Album of the Year. It lost that to The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and like you can't really argue with that. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is one of the best albums of all time. This one's pretty good too, but losing to Lauryn Hill is probably something that probably should have happened. It won for Best Rock Album. My Favorite Mistake was also nominated for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. Sheryl Crow is nominated for Producer of the Year. And then I think it was nominated for Best Engineered Album Non-Classical, which it won. So one for Rock Album of the Year, and then for Best Non-Classical Engineered Album. Take a look at the album here really quick. We're going to take a look at the track listing on this. We're going to compare the track listing to... I'm going to bring up the Apple Music version as well, because I think that one actually has all the tracks on there, including the bonus tracks, and they're not really hidden. But so for track 1, we have My Favorite Mistake. Track 2 is There Goes the Neighborhood. Track 3 is Riverwide. Track 4 is It Don't Hurt. Track 5 is Maybe That's Something. Track 6 is Am I Getting Through? Am I Getting Through Part 1 and Part 2? Track, I think I just lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so track 7 is Anything But Now. Track 8 is The Difficult Kind. Track 9 is Mississippi, which is a Bob Dylan cover. Let's see, track, I think 10 is Members Only, and then track 11 is Crash and Burn. I'm going to just compare that to the track listing here. Yeah, so it is track 11 is Crash and Burn. You get a version of Sweet Child of Mine or Subway Ride on different versions, but I think the Apple Music version actually just has those integrated into the actual album here. Let me just bring it up because I listened to it earlier today. Globe Sessions. Yeah, so the one on Apple Music is Globe Sessions, with bonus track version. So we have, again, My Favorite Mistake, There Goes the Neighborhood, Riverwide, It Don't Hurt, Maybe That's Something, Am I Getting Through Part 1 and Part 2, Anything But Down, The Difficult Kind, Mississippi, Members Only, Crash and Burn, and then track 12 is Sweet Child of Mine, which is a Guns N' Roses cover, and then track 13 is Subway Ride. I don't know if the Sweet Child of Mine cover isn't great. It doesn't really add a whole lot to the original. It's a decent song, but she doesn't really add a whole lot to it with this version. But the version on Apple Music, if you look for the bonus track version, will actually have those 2 other tracks on it. It's a really good album overall. Like I said, probably my favorite tracks off of it are My Favorite Mistake, There Goes the Neighborhood, Anything But Down. Mississippi is a great cover of a Bob Dylan song. It's kind of a classic. Members Only is also really good. The entire album is actually pretty good. Like I said, it's probably my favorite album from her, at least her early kind of years, I guess. I haven't listened to a whole lot of anything of her more recent stuff. But if you fold out the booklet here, you have that. It's like a little booklet. I don't think you have, there's no lyrics, but you have basically just the credits there. You have this, what's this one here? So that's your track listing right there if it wants to actually focus. And then you have your songwriting credits on the back there. And I've kind of wanted to see Sheryl Crow, and here's what the disc looks like if you were curious. There you are. I've kind of wanted to see her for a while. She was supposed to be doing a tour last year, and I think it was like a supporting act for, I think, Chris Stapleton. I'm not really super familiar with Chris Stapleton. I don't think I've ever actually even heard any music from him. But it was going to be Chris Stapleton and Sheryl Crow, and I think some other supporting acts. And then she was on the bill for that, and then eventually it just became a Chris Stapleton show with some other people. So I think it was like a pandemic thing to where that it was being rescheduled for last year or the year before. And then I think eventually, scheduling conflicts just made it so she wasn't part of that tour. But I would definitely go check her out. I mean, her first 3 albums are really good. Some of her later stuff is decent. I remember she did I think it was a cover of "Soak Up the Sun" that was on I think I have that on a greatest hits collection or something. But that was pretty good. One thing about the Grammys for it would have been the '99 awards because it was when for the albums that came out in 1998. I think they were calling it the Year of Women, I think, because all the albums of the year were either, I think all of them had basically female vocalists in the roles. I think it was, Lauryn Hill, Sheryl Crow, um, and I forget the other, but I know Garbage was one of them, and Garbage was in there. Not primarily a female act because like the rest of the members of Garbage are male, but Shirley Manson being the lead singer made that album count toward that as well. So that was just kind of cool that year's Grammys, the 1999 awards for the 1998 albums. All the nominees for album of the year were bands that basically were either female led like Garbage or just female acts like Sheryl Crow and Lauryn Hill. So that's very cool. I listened to this album, I want to say, 2 times this week just to get ready for this, and it's really solid. I highly recommend checking it out. I think you can still pick it up on CD. Like I said, they had a fire at the studio or where they were keeping the masters back in 2008. So like, probably again, no remastering of this will probably happen, but that's kind of just the way it is, I guess. But that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back again, I think, in a few days doing a movie. I don't know what movie we're going to be doing yet, but we'll be figuring that out. Episode after that will be another video game. So this was our, we did this album. We're going to do a movie episode next and then a video game episode after that. Again, that's going to do it for this episode. This has been the episode on Sheryl Crow's The Globe Sessions. I want to thank you again for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.